What's up, guys? This is part two of the best $300 phones. So let's go ahead and get started. The first phone that I'm actually been looking at and am going to be getting very soon is the Realme 6 Pro. You can find this for 300 bucks on Amazon right now. I'll put the links down below. This is a very awesome phone. I've been watching a lot and reading a lot about this phone. So it's got a glass back. It does have a plastic frame, but it has a really unique design. I've never had a Realme phone before, so I'm pretty excited to check this one out. You also have an IPS LCD display. It's a 6.6-inch display, so it's pretty big. You also have a 1080p resolution with 399 for the PPI. But what's really cool about this phone is you have a 90 hertz refresh rate. At this price point for 300 bucks is really awesome. You can see the dual punch hole on this phone. That'd be pretty interesting to see my reaction towards that. Android 10 with Realme UI, again, never tried it, but am very excited. From what I've seen, it seems pretty interesting. The Snapdragon 720G I have used in another phone. You have the Adreno 618. It's pretty much like a mid-tier chip. So gaming, from what I experienced, was fine. Bouncing out of apps was fine, but again, we're gonna have to see how Realme's UI is. You also have micro SD support with 64 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM, which is something that I really like. This phone does keep the headphone jack. You have NFC as well. The fingerprint scanner is on the side, rear mounted. You also have a quad camera setup on here, and from what I've seen, the camera looks pretty decent. You have a 64 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel telephoto, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. Shoots in 4K. Also, you have that dual camera setup up front, which is something that I like because you get the 16 megapixel camera, but you also get an 8 megapixel ultra wide for like group selfies and stuff like that, which is actually very useful. What's also really nice about this phone is you have 30-watt charging. That's as much as the OnePlus 7 Pro. So this phone is going to charge very fast. It has a 4,300 milliamp battery on here, which is a really nice size. So very excited for this phone. Be sure to check it out, guys. Next is the Mi 9T. So this again is one of the best phones on this list because of it has the full screen display with no punch hole, which is something that I just really love. I've had this phone and I reviewed it, so be sure to check out those videos, and it's just really awesome. You actually have a glass and aluminum frame, so it just feels super premium in the hand as well. You do have an AMOLED display. It's a 6.39-inch display, 1080p 403 for the PPI. A beautiful display, very color accurate, very bright, and again, very immersive with this full screen display, very thin bezels. I just really love watching content on this phone. I just think it's really awesome. So you do have the latest version of Android 10, along with MIUI 11. The Snapdragon 730 and Adreno 618 is very capable of gaming, so I had no issue there. And again, when you're gaming without an intrusion on the display, it's just a really awesome experience. The one negative thing is this phone does not have micro SD support for some strange reason. You get 64 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM, so that's the only kind of weird thing. So you might want to upgrade if that's not going to be enough, or use the cloud. So you do have the headphone jack still on here. NFC is on here. You actually have a really fast fingerprint scanner under the display, which is something that I really like. So you have a triple camera setup. It's a 48 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 13 megapixel ultra wide. You have 4K 30 FPS for the video. You have the pop-up selfie camera that actually lights up red. It's very cool, and that is 1080p. And the cameras on here are definitely really good. Dynamic range is good, color is good. Overall, just some very satisfying cameras. You can also port Gcam to this phone as well. One of my favorite things about this phone is the 4,000 milliamp battery. So you have that with 18-watt fast charging, and this is a really good battery champ. So you can get easily 8 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. I did a battery drain test on this phone, so be sure to check that out. The next phone is going to be the LG G8. This is a phone we talk about a lot on this channel, and yeah, I have a ton of videos on this phone, but this is one of the best on the list as well. If you're looking for just an all around flagship phone, you can get this renewed for 300 bucks, and it comes in excellent condition. Glass and metal design, is IP68 dust and water resistant, so you can get this thing wet. This has a OLED display at 6.1 inches, and it's a 1440p display, the highest resolution on this list. It's a beautiful display. display, one of my favorite screens on any smartphone. 564 for the PPI, just extremely sharp. Of course, always on Dolby Vision, HDR10. You also have Android 10 with LG's UI, which is basically like the stock Android UI. It's not really, they don't really do a lot with the UI, which is something that I really appreciate. You also have the Snapdragon 855 and the Adreno 640, so this will play pretty much all games on high. Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, it will play these games on high, so this is a great gaming phone as well. You also have micro SD support and 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. You also have the headphone jack on here with the quad DAC, so if you're into music listening, this is going to be your best option as well. NFC is on here, so as you can see, everything that you really want is on here. You have a really good face ID along with hand ID. The fingerprint scanner on here is very good as well. The cameras on here are really great too. It's a 12 megapixel standard and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You also get 4K video, and you also have an 8 megapixel camera up front that shoots in 1080p. Cameras are super solid, great color, great dynamic range, great detail. Overall, some very good cameras. You also have a 3500 milliamp battery with 21-watt fast charging along with wireless charging as well. This phone, if you check out my battery drain test, can easily get you 8 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time as well. Very easy, so I really love this phone. Next is a phone that I've really been loved using over the past month, is the OnePlus 6T. So this is an awesome phone, again for 300 bucks. A glass and aluminum design on here, and it has a really nice feel to it. Just feels really premium in the hand. You have the AMOLED display on here. It's a 6.41 inch wide drop notch display, 1080p, 402 for the PPI. A really nice display, gives off some really great colors, so that is something that I really like. One of the highlights with this phone is Android 10 with the latest version of Oxygen OS. So you have the latest version of Oxygen OS, one of my favorite skins on any smartphone. It's just buttery smooth, really fast. I love all the customization options that you have, and I just love how organized this is. And again, OnePlus is really good at pushing out updates, which is something that I really like. So you have the Snapdragon 845 and the Adreno 630. Again, this phone is going to be really great for gaming as well. So gamers, you will be able to play on high settings, so that is really awesome. You have no expandable storage, but on the base model you get 128 gigs and 6 gigs of RAM, which I think is enough for most people. So you do get the headphone jack on here. Of course, NFC is on here. This phone does not have any IP rating, so do know that, or wireless charging, so it is, missing a couple of things, but of course you're paying for, a $300 phone. The cameras on here are also very impressive. You have a 16 megapixel wide and a 20 megapixel depth sensor. It shoots in 4K, 30 or 60 FPS. You also have a 16 megapixel camera up front, shoots in 1080p. I was really happy with the cameras on here. You get good detail, good color. Also, there is a Gcam port that you can port over to this guy. The in-display fingerprint scanner is very fast, and it's always a cool feature that I really love. And you have a 3700 milliamp battery, 20-watt fast charging. This is again a really good battery champ. You can get over 8 hours of screen on time. Very easy with this phone. So overall, a very good pick if you just love OnePlus. The cameras, in-display fingerprint sensor, the software is just really awesome. Last on the list is the Pixel 3a. So this is going to be the best camera phone on the list. Has one of the best cameras. Still, it beats a lot of even some flagship phones. So let's go ahead and dive into it now. They cut corners with the design. Now, even though it does not feel super cheap in the hand, it is a plastic phone, but again, it does not feel like, just a crappy plastic phone. It has a nice weight to it, and it feels pretty solid. You have an OLED display now. It's very kind of compact at 5.6 inches, so it's a little small, but it's 1080p. 441 for the PPI. I have no issues with the display. As you can see, you kind of have like these bezels here, but you don't have a notch, so it depends. Overall, I didn't really care about the design because of how great the phone is. Now you have Android 10 with the Snapdragon 670, Adreno 615. Again, it's like a mid-tier chip, so you're not going to be able to max everything out on high settings, but you will be able to do casual gaming on here just fine. The processor is really snappy along with the stock version of Android, so no real speed issues with this phone at all. No expandable storage, 64 gigs of internal storage and 4 gigs of RAM. You also have NFC on this phone as well. You also have some very loud stereo speakers, which is really awesome. Now the real reason why you're getting this phone is because of the camera. So you have a 12.2 megapixel camera, 4K video, 8 megapixel selfie camera. The cameras on here are just really great. Again, one of the best on the list. You just have great dynamic range, color is good, detail is good. I mean, it definitely competes with a lot of flagship phones like the iPhone, Samsung phones. This is a phone that you can get for cheap and get some really good photos with. So you also have a 3000 milliamp battery, which you can get pretty decent battery life on here. It wasn't anything too bad. You're looking at around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, depending on how you use it. The fingerprint scanner is very fast on the back. So again, this is a phone that if you're just really into taking photos on your phone, you're definitely going to be picking this up. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.